Shulchan Aruch says that if a man who stopped being religious marries a religious woman and they have a child, and that boy needs to have circumcision, the 8th day comes out on Shabbos, we do circumcision on Shabbos. Since the mother is religious, we do not suspect that the child would not keep Torah and mitzvahs, and therefore we do circumcision on Shabbos. Tur learns this from Baal Ha'iter, who says that if a non-religious man has a religious wife, they will do circumcision for their son on Shabbos. Bedek Habayis, however, says that if both the father and the mother stop being religious, we would still do circumcision for their son on Shabbos. And this, that the Baal Ha'iter said, that we would do circumcision for their son if the father is not religious, but the mother is religious, because the mother would make sure that the son keeps the mitzvahs, says by the Habayis, doesn't mean specifically that the mother is religious. Since they're obligated to do the mitzvahs, we would anyways do a circumcision for their son on Shabbos. It comes to exclude the case that the father has a son from a non-Jew. In that case, we would not do circumcision on Shabbos. But if the father, who is not religious, and the mother is not religious, says by the Habayis, since they're obligated to do the mitzvahs, we would still do circumcision on Shabbos. Bach also brings this opinion of Bedek Habayis. However, the Shach and the Taz disagree. Shach says that the reason that we do circumcision on Shabbos for such a child whose father is not religious, he stopped being religious, and whose mother is religious, is because the mother will make sure that the child will not go into bad company, that he'll keep the Torah and mitzvahs. And the Tur also brings this opinion. Comes out from Baal Ha'iter that we would have thought that if the father stopped being religious, the son would also be like the father and not be religious. No, because the mother is religious, we do not suspect that the child would not be religious. Comes out from the Baal Ha'iter that if the mother and the father both stop being religious, we would suspect that the child also would not be religious, he would also join the bad company, he would not do in such a case circumcision on Shabbos. The Taz also says that we would not do a circumcision on Shabbos for such a child, because parents both stop being religious, even though they come to us to have a circumcision for their child, and it seems like they want the child to keep the mitzvahs because they want him to have circumcision, but since they themselves are not keeping mitzvahs, they would raise the child also not keeping mitzvahs. Says the Taz, we would not do circumcision on Shabbos for such a child. And also, just because they want the child to have circumcision does not mean that they want the child to keep the mitzvahs. Maybe they themselves reject all of Torah except the mitzvah of circumcision. Says the Taz, in such a case, we would not do circumcision on Shabbos. As far as the Kroim, who do not keep oral tradition, Bedek Habayis brings Orchas Chaim in the name of the Rambam, who says that as long as they do not speak negatively and do not make fun of the rabbis of the Mishnah and the Talmud, it's proper to give them respect, to go into their houses to see how they're doing, and to circumcise their children even on Shabbos, because maybe elevated children would come out of them who would keep the mitzvahs. The same says Rav Chai going that if they would also keep the Priya, it's proper to circumcise them on Shabbos, because maybe children would come out of them who would keep mitzvahs. However, Shuvas Rabbeinu Betzalel Ashkenazi brings the Rambam and Rav Chai going and says no, that the Kroim who lived in his time do not have any of the characteristics of which Rav Chai going spoke about. They add every day to their improper behavior. They do not do Priya. Priya is removal of a membrane that's under the circumcised skin. They do not use a religious mochel. They do not bring Talmidei Chachomim into their houses. Talmidei Chachomim would make sure that circumcision is done right. But since they would not remove Priya, that membrane under the foreskin, circumcision does not count. And instead of bringing Talmidei Chachomim into their houses, they run away from them like from a snake. They do not pray the way they are supposed to pray. They do not pray 18 blessings in Shmoni Esrei. They're different in Judaism in everything they do. And it's forbidden to circumcise their children on Shabbos. And if you say we should circumcise them and not take off the membrane that's under the skin, not do the Priya, the circumcision would not count, and it would be desecration of Shabbos.